One voice has changed the conversation. Forever. A voice of freedom and faith. This week we remember that voice. Welcome to the YoJoe Show Podcast, episode 22. This episode is dedicated to the memory of a remarkable man who championed religious liberty and free speech. Join us as we reflect on his impact and share stories of courage and celebrate the values that make America strong. Tune in and be inspired. This episode is dedicated to the memory and enduring legacy of Charlie Kirk.
Brace yourself. Tech, politics, health. It's all here. Join thousands shocked by the YoJoe Show's unfiltered truths. Smash that subscribe button now and blow your mind.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the YoJoe Show Podcast. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm awake and alive. Unfortunately, this is a sadder episode for us to record.
Yep, it sure is. And we've taken a few extra days just to let things settle, but we're going to move forward, and we are going to be talking about, obviously, the topic that everyone's talking about right now. It's a lot of things going on. We just had September 11th, but that was foreshadowed with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So obviously we'll be spending most of the episode talking basically about our feelings and the things that we've experienced and seen and heard and our thoughts about all this. I think it is a very significant moment in our country. So I don't think it'll be appropriate to go and just talk about other topics, but we'll include a couple of things that have happened at the same time. Perhaps the best way to get started is with a video of one of the sheriffs here in Florida, Marion County. Sheriff Woods does a terrific job putting things together in a talk that he did related to September 11th, but related also to the other things that were happening this past week. And I think his words are so well spoken that we give him a platform to hear what he has to say and then what some other people have to say. Let's start with that.
Let's take a look.
I caution the viewers, the first segment of the video actually covers September 11th and graphic video from that day 24 years ago. Here we go.
Sean, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and I just wanted you to know that I love you always.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right? Ladies and students in the office, we're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
I'm on the 83rd now. I'm gonna die, aren't I? I'm gonna die.
Live, say your prayers.
God.
We're gonna think positive because you gotta help each other get off the floor.
I'm
Now,
gonna die.
Hello, Marion County. Sheriff Woods here. Now, today is a very important day, 9/11. And we must pause and never forget the terrible violence and terroristic acts against Americans 24 years ago. So, we pause to consider the bravery of those first responders and our military in the years to follow. But on a day like today, Patriots Day, we remember the American blood that was shed. And unfortunately, American blood is still being shed as evil tries to rise above freedom, right, and truth. And just like that tragic day on 9/11, it's happening here on our soil. It's not just on a battlefield somewhere. It's not soldier versus soldier. What all of you need to do is open your eyes and see what happened yesterday. Yesterday, the very fabric of our nation, freedom, came under attack. And not just freedom. The shooting of Charlie Kirk was more than a political assassination. Charlie was assassinated for his beliefs and his faith in God. I don't give a crap what side of the political aisle you associate with. You should stand against this horrendous event. It is just pure evil. There is zero right in this. If you think or believe remotely that piece of shit's actions were okay, like those in D.C. who opposed a moment of silence, you are not part of the problem, you are the problem. Regardless of what some of the morons in our legislation think or believe, our faith in God is at the very core of the founding of this nation. Every legislator, national, state, and local, needs to remember this And you, the citizens, need to recognize that they are not there for good, but to help evil. When these elections, which some are coming, on all levels, the only question that you need to ask them is, where do you stand with God? Folks, we are still fighting evil, like the shooting of Charlie Kirk, killing of an innocent young lady on a train, school shootings as recent as just yesterday. There must be consequences for poor actions. It is not the gun, it is the human being, and they should be held accountable. It's been said that peace is not just the absence of violence. It is also requires the very real presence of justice. As Americans, we more than expect that. We demand it. And when I hear political leaders like Chicago's Mayor Johnson and the Illinois Governor Pritzker speaking out against justice and right, it's more than upsetting. It's completely un-American. They are complete idiots. Why would you? After seeing the crime problem that they have, not to support the actions to help make your place safer? Again, it's un-American. Another, this Canadian regional police chief, McSween, who just told his citizens not to try to stop criminals, give them your car keys or whatever they want. What? Are you kidding me? Let me tell you what I would do. So you criminals know, you come into my home and so will my wife. I will shoot you. You have no right to come into my home and steal anything. And by the grace of God, you live through it, you better stand up or at least stick out your hand and say, thank you, sir, for not killing you. So to those leaders that want to empower criminals, it sounds like there's a place for you in Canada. Move. It's not here. And media, you're not exempt. Just report the news. That's all anyone wants. Not your opinions, not your ideas, or anything else. At yesterday's shooting of Charlie Kirk, some MSNBC analyst, Matthew Dowd, suggested that it was probably just a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration. What the hell is going through that small brain of yours? That, citizens, is prejudice in its purest form, when you base a statement off of a person's beliefs, social standing, and stereotype. I understand he was fired, but I am like you, citizens. I am just having a hard time understanding how anyone, conservative, liberal, or anywhere in between, cannot be outraged by unjustified evil acts. I will conclude with this. For years, individuals of faith and understanding have idly stood in the shadows and overlooked and tolerated true evil's ideas and beliefs. But yesterday, freedom took notice. Freedom stood up and loudly rung a bell for us to lower our gates and no longer allow evil to creep in.
He's right on so many levels. I want to start by just sharing something. On September 11th, 24 years ago, I worked in a small office in Fort Lauderdale and walked into the office just before 9 o'clock. The first plane hit, I think it was 8:46 in the morning. And I walked in like maybe a minute after that. As I walked in, our administrative assistant was standing there in front of a television in the office, literally with her jaw dropped open, watching the image on the screen that was being covered live at this point. And she had just been in New York like the day before, and she'd visited the World Trade Center. So she was like, I was in there yesterday. And as we stood there in total horror and shock, a few minutes later, we saw the second plane hit. Later on, our building was evacuated. I think we're in the second tallest building in Fort Lauderdale. So there was concerns. So they actually had the whole building evacuated and went home and tried to make sense of all of this. And ultimately, the thing that I recall out of all of that the most, aside from seeing a whole bunch of police cars circling an apartment complex on the way home, which later supposedly had something to do with this, was an email we received. At the time, I worked for MetLife Insurance, company, and they had an office, I believe it was on the 89th floor of the North Tower. And someone from that office sent an email internally, which I wish I still had a copy of it, but the gist of the email was like this. I think there was like 35 people or so that were in that office, and 3 of them were never accounted for. The rest survived. And the email basically recounts what happened. And they explained how working in the World Trade Center, if you don't lock your desk drawers, by the next day when you come in, the drawer would be partially open because the building actually sways a little bit. It's almost imperceptible, but it does move. The buildings were designed to have to absorb some movement. And ultimately, they said they felt the entire building like shake. Everything went flying. They knew something had happened, but they didn't know what. They explained that the loudspeakers were saying that everything was fine and just stay where they were. And they decided at some point they wanted to leave. They went to go to the door, and the door out of the office wouldn't open because the building had moved so much that the frame had bent and they were stuck in the office. And they could hear people shouting in the hallway, and they started panicking, obviously. Eventually, they figured the only way out was to try to make a hole through the wall because they couldn't get the door open. So they literally started bashing at the wall and actually cut a hole through the wall itself, which, because it's an internal wall, was only basically a drywall, and made it into the hallway. They said they went to the stairs, they were going down. They had never taken the stairs down from 89 stories or what have you that they were at. So they didn't even know where the stairs were. They took the stairs, they went down. They got to a certain floor, I forget which one, and they said the stairs ended. And they make you have to get out of the stairwell and walk down the hall. And now at this point, there's debris and dust, and they can't see what's going on. And they couldn't even find the other stairs. They finally did. Anyways, they recount finally making it down to the last few floors as they were trying to leave the building. And at that point, they saw the firefighters going up, wearing their Scott packs, their facial masks, and so forth. And they were running up the
True
stairs.
heroes.
Yeah, they were going up as everyone was trying to
True
go.
heroes.
It was an account of helping someone that was having trouble moving and being able to walk. I can only imagine going down almost 90 stories. So ultimately, this person said they got down, they saw what was happening, and they just decided to start running. They went back basically to the port and eventually took the ferry, I think it was, back to New Jersey where they lived. Like a lot of people, they don't live in the city itself. And the email basically ends saying that night they couldn't sleep, and then they obviously by then they turned on the news and saw the totality of what had happened. And they said the image that kept just coming back in their minds was the faces of the young men, primarily, I guess that's the way they describe it, going up the stairs, and their look of like determination and knowing that not one of them ever made it out of there. And I never forgot that story. I thought it was written first point of view from the person that was there. And I think that out of all the stories I heard, that was the one that was most touching, that the person did make it out. They described the lobby was all the glass all blown out. It was very descriptive, but the thing that stuck with me was this sort of idea, the image that they had of the faces of the people that were going up to try to rescue people, and they never made it because the building shortly after they evacuated, the building collapsed. As time passes, I think it's important for people to remember September 11th, and I think for our younger generations to grasp just what it meant. And it's not just the Twin Towers, but the other aircraft as well. And
Pentagon.
yes, all and the totality of what happened and understanding what that meant for us can't be forgotten. And I think it was crazy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated the day before September 11th. If it was up to me, I think we should name a day after him. It doesn't, and I wouldn't make it September 10th. I would make it on his birthday, which I think is October 14th or something. His birthday is coming up. There should be a Charlie Kirk Day, and it would be a day to celebrate free speech. That's what I think would be the most fitting thing. And to the people who were trying to cancel free speech, that'd be the best way to fight back, so to speak. Say, you know what, you wanted to cancel free speech now every year. There would be a day to remember that free speech is super important, and it's the foundation of what we live for in the United States.
And to denounce political violence. And we each have to take steps to take the place of Charlie Kirk. He fought for free speech just with every fiber of his being. We have a lot of international viewers. Just a little bit of context. When Charlie Kirk graduated high school, he was going to go to college, and then he realized how screwed up the college system was. And he had just a phenomenal moral compass. He was a devout Christian, and he founded an organization called Turning Point America. And at that time, and probably still, it is one of the only kind of conservative organizations in campuses across the United States. And originally, he had no interest in the limelight. He did not want to be there. He did not want the attention or anything. So he wanted to bring other speakers and stuff like that. But it ended up being that he was just such a phenomenal speaker. He really grew into the position. He was originally a little shy and timid, but he had what it took to become a leader, to become a hero. And what he would do is he would go to campuses all throughout the United States, and he would just set up a table and debate with a lot of the brainwashed students there, unfortunately, the indoctrinated students there, because that's what our colleges and universities have become. And he had such a phenomenal way of explaining things and breaking down issues, where even his most kind of vile critics, when they were there in front of the microphone talking to him, they just couldn't respond, because he really explained things so well. And he influenced hundreds of thousands, millions of young Americans. We all saw his videos. If you haven't, you should definitely check it out. Never judge a person without actually seeing them speak for themselves, and watching him speak for himself in its full context, of course, is very important. He was just phenomenal on so many topics. He was just a loving person. He had a young family, 2 beautiful young children, a beautiful wife, and he was doing what he does to free speech, sitting in a campus in the United States, when essentially a sniper hit him right in the neck, literally right there. And there are lots of videos of it live, and when you see that, it was clear to me that he would not survive. Just the amount of blood, it was an important artery. There's just no way out of it. Originally, there were kind of conflicting reports that he may survive, but it was obvious to me that won't happen, unfortunately. And I think that this is a real kind of gut punch to the American psyche. Basically, we've been tolerating the radical left for many years, claiming that everything is violence. Not acknowledging somebody's wished gender is violence, and not acknowledging somebody's decision that they're now a cat is violence, and dead naming somebody is violence, and offending somebody is violence. And if you characterize any type of group, that's violence, and anything you say or do is violence. So in their mind, they live in such delusions that the correct way to counter these quote unquote violences, which are not violences at all, they're free speech and they're the bedrock of our society, is with violence. And unfortunately, it means that a lot of them have become radicalized to the point of violence, because what was the real shock of this assassination wasn't just the fact that he was assassinated. It was the fact that millions and millions of Americans have been so brainwashed and indoctrinated into celebrating it. If you go to Blue Sky, which is like a radical left version of Twitter or X, there are people just making lists of who next to kill. Oh, let's kill Ben Shapiro. Oh, let's kill just a variety of public figures like that. And they're celebrating, just happy. Oh, he said that being gay isn't good, so therefore he deserves to die. He said, and most of the things they quote are completely taken out of context, because of course that's what they do. But millions and millions of Americans are literally videoing themselves celebrating his death, and it's just an innocent father to young children. Like, even if you agree with even if you disagree with what he says, even if you disagree with his policies, it does not make it right to murder somebody like that. I think freedom. The sheriff, first of all, the sheriff is the symbol of Americana, so he's seems like a great person to give that summary, and that was really a phenomenal summary. The essence of being American is the essence of freedom. It's most notably of all freedom of speech, but freedom of religion, not freedom to enforce your religion on others, but freedom for each to practice whatever religion they like. But none of these can happen without freedom of speech. And the only thing that holds freedom of speech, or holds the government from taking away our freedom of speech, is the Second Amendment, or the right to bear arms. I think what the sheriff said, that if you don't see a problem with the assassination of a young father, you are the problem. That is very important, because I think the conservative in America for very long have been putting up with the bullshit that the left has been trying to sell, that you're offensive if you say something not nice, and you're offensive, and if you do something, you're going to cause somebody to commit suicide. If you don't reaffirm their brainwashed mentality or their psychiatric issues, you but you are the reason they're going to commit suicide. And at some point, it's no, just no. I think this is the point that America is standing up and saying no. Like, we are not taking it. I just spoke to somebody yesterday, and he said that he has an extended family member who's transgender or something, or in the process or something to that effect. And basically, at some point, she just started threatening everybody, saying, hey, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to commit suicide. If you don't do what this, I'm going to commit suicide. If you don't give me that, I'm going to commit suicide. And at some point, it's just, you know what? Fuck off. You know what I mean? Not that we want you to commit suicide, but stop threatening everybody. We can't give into every single threat because somebody's sensitive about something. At the end of the day, we each have the right to live our life and to say what we want to say. This is a right we've seen been taken away from the British people, who've seen barely exist in a lot of parts of Europe. In Australia during COVID, that right was taken away. They took away their guns. Now they can take away their speech. And now they're taking away the machetes too, because chopping a banana off a tree is a crime. But that is the point. Americans have stood up right now, these last few days, and said, you are the problem. Enough with the bullshit. We are stopping that. It stops right here. He mentioned a school shooting yesterday. I don't think I've heard of a school shooting yesterday. Can you tell me a little bit?
Remember, yesterday, as he was doing this for September 11th, yes, in Colorado. So there was a teenage kid who went to school and shot up the school and turned the gun on themselves. And that individual had been on some radicalized websites that celebrate animal torture and human decapitations and all kinds of crazy things. And apparently there's been other school shooters that frequented that type of site. It celebrates like disgusting things like that. Yeah, it wasn't enough that there was what happened with Charlie Kirk, but there was also a school shooting intermixed in with that.
And we just had the one in Minnesota we discussed an episode ago. You know what I mean? And
Right.
again,
And we're going to be talking a little bit specifically about school safety in an In Focus episode that we'll be putting out shortly as well. But it does speak to what's going on. Like, one of the other things that was mentioned by the sheriff was the horrific murder in North Carolina on the transit system, where a young Ukrainian refugee was just walked into the subway and was sitting there, and this guy gets up and stabs her in the neck, and she just curled up and died there. Everybody watched. There didn't seem to be really much. In fact, a lot of the video gets cut out that doesn't really show much of that. And what's
it took about
interesting
5 or 10 minutes for people to realize, to actually try and help, and that's sad. It is very sad, and I think we're going to discuss that more. That was really what preceded the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and this itself was a punch in the gut for the American people, because almost every single father can see their young daughter in this Iryna kind of sitting there and just on her phone, and then get stabbed in the neck, and she's just in shock, in awe, gasping, and nobody's helping her, and she just collapses and dies for literally not doing harm to a single human being. And we just saw our daughters. Like, what if our daughters take public transportation? What happens to them? And the criminal there was released 14 times from jail because of the radical left prosecutors who don't want to prosecute anybody, and some magistrate judge who never went to law school, that decided to release her from jail. But we all saw our daughters in this innocent woman. She just got on the train and was just stabbed for zero reason. There wasn't a fight. There wasn't an argument. There was literally nothing. So that itself was just a slap across the street, that crime has gone too far. Under the Biden administration, crime was allowed. Some would say even encouraged, by releasing these criminals again and again. And this was just crime going way too far. I think the sheriff said something. He said, being American is standing up for what is right. And that is very much true. And I think this is the point where Americans stand up for what is right. We just saw hundreds of thousands of people gather in the United Kingdom for Tommy Robinson's event to take back their country from the invaders. And Americans are starting to stand up too. Thankfully, in America's case, there are many invaders, but those are being deported. But Americans have had enough. Enough is enough. The sheriff also mentioned the media complacency. And this is very much critical, because with Iryna, when she was assassinated, the media would not report it. No mainstream media would cover it. There are no headlines. There's no coverage, because the murderer, the evil man who tried to kill her, was black, and she was a white Ukrainian girl. And therefore, they would just not cover it. And after days and days of being shamed into covering it, all the media had to say is that the right-wing activists are trying to turn this into partisan issue to create hate against the left. It is, what the heck is wrong with you? The media has just gone off the rails, and Americans are so fed up and have had enough, because the media have been feeding people this lie that if you don't agree with the media, if you support Donald Trump, he's Hitler, that means that you're Hitler. If you don't like the left, that means that you're a Nazi. And just the media has really been pushing these narratives for years and years, and they really are complacent in what's been happening. They've been the ones who don't cover crime when it's black on white, but will over amplify crime when it's white on black. Even though that's a tiny percent of crime, they make the headlines for that. So they are very much complacent in what has been going on, and Americans are disgusted by the media, by legacy media, because they're not mainstream anymore. They haven't been mainstream for a long time. They got less views than half the podcasts out there. But Americans have finally been disgusted that the media will try and cover up or tacitly support unjustifiable evil. And that's the critical thing across both of these murders and the school shooting, apparently. It is unjustifiable, pure evil. There's no other benefit. It's no some side effect. It isn't a gang war and somebody got shot by mistake. It isn't killing terrorists and by mistake there's some innocent bystander who got injured. No, this is pure evil. Just stabbing a girl in the neck who did nothing wrong and shooting somebody for standing up for free speech and making arguments he can't defend. I think that we saw this with Trump, right? They tried to stop him by every single means, and then when they couldn't, they tried to shoot him. They've been trying to cancel and shame all of these right-wing speakers or anybody who stands up for free speech for years and years, and they just decided to use a gun instead. And that is not the use of gun that we celebrate or allow here in the United States. That is the reason why so many Americans want to have guns. And I'm sure gun purchases have probably skyrocketed because people realize if you can't be safe in a subway bus, if you can't be safe talking on a university college, you have to arm yourself, and it's just a scary place to be in. And I think most Americans are very much disturbed by that.
Let me think back to some of the things you said. So ultimately, the media not covering the murder of a 23-year-old girl on public transit in North Carolina was despicable. It wasn't until social media had it broadly covered that they thought they didn't have a choice, that the perpetrator had been released 14 times for various offenses. And I think that one of the really important things to think about, and I've seen this brought up, it's not just me saying this, other people have brought it up as well. If you're a bartender or a server in a restaurant and you serve alcohol to someone and they're intoxicated and they go out and they're involved in a horrific accident, someone gets injured or killed, the bartender and or the restaurant manager and or owner, all of these people potentially have criminal liability for the death, certainly civil, for the death of the individual because they didn't do the right thing, okay, to do what they could do. Strangely though, if you're a politician, pass laws that allow dangerous people out on the street, nothing happens to you. There's no repercussions. If you're a judge or magistrate and you let someone out on the street that clearly shouldn't be, nothing happens to you. And I think at the very least, the people should be removed from their positions if this is a pattern, not a one-off mistake that they made. You can't make the same mistake 14 times. I don't know that it's the same person that released this one individual 14 times. But I pulled up a very short clip of the tragic event. Let's put that up just for those that didn't actually follow it, because like I said, the media, as you agree, didn't really do justice to the story. This was an early video, but it does give you a little bit of information about it and some visuals. Here we go.
Surveillance video released by Charlotte Area Transit shows 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska boarding the train car in her pizzeria uniform. She had just gotten off her shift and was heading home when she sat down in front of 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. Here you can see Brown pull something out of his pocket, a folding knife. Then just 4 minutes after Zarutska got on the train, he attacks. Police say she was stabbed 3 times, including a fatal blow to the neck. Zarutska was pronounced dead at the scene. The young woman, a refugee from Ukraine, fleeing her home country due to the war, hoping for a safer life in the States. After the deadly ambush, police believe was completely random, Brown can be seen on camera walking through the train car with a knife, blood dripping from him. After stripping off his sweatshirt, he gets off the train at the next stop and was eventually arrested on the train platform by officers. Brown is now facing first-degree murder charges. A repeat offender, he has multiple arrests dating back to 2011, including assault and robbery with a dangerous weapon. And News Nation has learned that transit security guards were on the train that night, but the car ahead of Zarutska when she was attacked. So Brown is being held without bond. His attorney is seeking a competency evaluation, and an insanity defense is being considered.
Of course, he's insane. But
yeah, he wasn't insane 14 times. The last 14 times he was released from jail or he was put up for trial. No, he wasn't insane any of those times. I think there's a very important statistic, and it's 3% of people commit like 85% of murders or something, of violent offenders. And some people are mentally deranged and they have to be locked up for the safety of humanity. It just is what it is throughout all of human history. There are deranged people. They have to be locked up. Otherwise, the rest of society can't coexist safely. And what we've seen over the last few years is that these Soros-funded judges and attorney generals have been releasing people, releasing them from jail, releasing them from arrest with no bond, with no issues. Just, okay, back to the street, back to the street, back to the street. Releasing psychopaths to continue the crime. It's not random that this person has already committed 14 violent crimes before. It's not random. He's a mentally deranged person who deserves to be in jail. He may not be mentally deranged in the regular term. It could be he can take a psychological evaluation, be completely fine, but he's mentally deranged by the fact that he has murderous ambitions and violent tendencies. And he is just somebody who is not safe to be on the street. And there are a lot of other people like that who just must remain locked up. I think there was a statistic that if you lock up anybody who commits 5 crimes or more, you reduce the crime rate by 40%. If you arrest without release anybody who committed 3 crimes or more, you get rid of like 70% of the. And if you arrest anybody who did 2 violent crimes or more, you basically alleviate like 85% of all violent crimes, right? Those people cannot be released from jail. I don't care who Soros funded to be the AG to release them. I think it's very good that Trump is finally going after that evil man. And don't call me an anti-Semite, please. It's the most ridiculous claim you can possibly make. He's an evil man, regardless of his Nazi Jewish backgrounds. He's just pure evil who wants carnage for the sake of carnage. And his son Alex is just as bad as him. The really senseless thing and very sad thing is that this beautiful, innocent girl was fleeing from war to be safe in a safe country, which she thought was a safe country. But because we've released so many criminals, this country has stopped being safe anymore. And she was senselessly murdered for no reason at all. So yeah, it's just a punch in the gut. Someone so beautiful taken at the prime of her life for no reason whatsoever, just because these evil AGs have been releasing. I think every single one of these AGs that have been mass releasing people because of their color, they have to be prosecuted. They have to be punished. They have to go to jail. This magistrate judge, she has to be punished. She has to go to jail. I think it is not fine that we let people off the hook, that maybe they get fired in the worst case scenario. If you're complacent, you belong going to jail.
Don't hold your breath. But I do think a lot of attention has been placed on this now. And whereas the attack on this young lady was somewhat random, it wasn't like they had planned on her being there, coming into the subway that day, we don't think, and waiting for her. What happened with Charlie Kirk was specifically targeted, planned, and everyone keeps saying it's a political assassination, and it is, because he has certain political views. I think it's also a religious assassination, because he was very openly religious, and it's odd that no one seems to really, people are too scared to talk about that. People talk about people being persecuted. There are Christians all around the world that are being persecuted to this day. There's
all over the Middle East, especially.
Right. There's a lot of focus here in this country on anti-Semitism, which we've covered as well, which has been on the rise. But ultimately, the things that are being preached from a religious perspective are things like, again, loving your neighbor, open communication, so on and so forth. And I've heard a lot of Charlie Kirk's interactions with people that don't have the same faith, don't have the same beliefs, don't have the same political points of view or the same ideology as him. I've always seen him being very respectful and inviting of those conversations. And one of the talks had to do with transgenderism and being gay and so forth. And the young man asking the question said, how do you reconcile that? How are you accepting of that as you're a Christian? And he said, being a Christian is multifaceted. I have my beliefs that I live by. And he says, I will explain what my beliefs are. But part of being a Christian is also being able to accept other people. And everybody was created in Christianity. That's the way it's viewed. So no matter who you are, what your views are, you were created by God. And that is what he would speak to. And he would say, look, in the end, that is why he's open to speaking with everyone. That is why he's accepting of other people, even if he has a different point of view that he wants to make. Really, his take was that he wanted to be able to platform and make the points of view that he wants to make, not that he wanted to erase the other points of view. He wanted those. And let me tell you, some of the times he let the other individuals speak for quite a while and articulate as best they could all their visions for what was wrong with Charlie's point of view, and he let them do that. It's ironic that people out there on the left are saying that Charlie Kirk was fascist. One of the shell casings, I believe, said something like fascist, catch this or whatever, implying that Charlie Kirk is fascist. Does it imply that Trump is fascist? And it's actually the opposite. Fascism wouldn't allow open speech. Fascism wouldn't allow desperate, different ideas and ideologies. He's the opposite of that. He encouraged that debate, even if you didn't agree with him. He went to places where a large number of people did not agree with him, which is fine.
The vast majority. Yeah.
That was the purpose for it. But it did seem to be having an impact because a lot of people were younger individuals, college age, high school, were now starting to see through some of the lies perhaps they were being told. Just like now we're hearing all this talk about people quoting Charlie Kirk. But if you go and actually listen to what he said, they're twisting his words or taking them totally out of context. So it's sad. And I do think you made a comment earlier that if you're going to question some of this, go and find the actual comments he made, his actual quotes. There's tons of video of him. Anyone that wants to know what he was really about, it's not hard.
Just watch it in full context, because so many people always take him, and anybody, just like they took Trump out of context, just like they take everybody, like they took Bibi out of context or whoever it is. Don't let them feed you narratives. Watch the full hour length discussion on your own and then make up your mind.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most important message, because many of the things and maybe much of the basis for people disliking Charlie Kirk were because they didn't understand really where he was coming from. And some of the vile things that have been said are just mind-boggling. Maybe to start immersing ourselves a little bit in that, we have a compilation we can play that has everything from the initial newscasts that were put together by one of the better online sort of mixologists of these videos, and then it has some of the other things that are floating around the internet. We could literally have a 5-hour compilation. We don't have it quite that long, but it's unbelievable how much information is out there, and a lot of it's very concerning. But let's play this. It's going to be a few minutes. Sit back and listen and watch, and we'll regroup and talk a little bit about it.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. We continue to follow the breaking news. Conservative political activist Charlie Kirk has been shot.
Oh, what? Who? Was that out? Wait, what happened? Charlie Kirk. Wait a minute, is this true?
Tonight, a new chapter in this era of political violence. Conservative political activist Charlie Kirk is dead, assassinated while speaking on a college campus in Utah.
This happened really just moments ago. Kirk was about 20 minutes into his speech when shots were fired from a nearby building.
Breaking news to CNN. A source tells CNN that Trump ally and the founder of Turning Points USA, Charlie Kirk, was shot at an event on a college campus in Utah.
I just started getting word just a couple of that Charlie Kirk has been shot.
This hits differently
because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point, and we know which direction we're going.
And I will say this, actually. Those people who posted on TikTok, open TikToks, calling for me to be killed yesterday, let's see if the police go and arrest them. Yes. Shall we? Because if they don't, we truly are living in two-tier Britain.
Charlie Kirk with Jesus. I want y'all to say some thoughts and prayers tonight before you go to sleep. When you lay down by yourself or when you love one, say some prayers for somebody that need it. I appreciate every single one of y'all. I hope y'all have a safe trip home. My name's Gavin Hancock. See y'all next time.
Our nation has also witnessed several acts of senseless violence in recent weeks, including the deaths of school children in Colorado, churchgoers in Minnesota, and Charlie Kirk in Utah. At this time, we ask you to join us in a moment of silence as we remember those we have lost.
But following up with what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly pushing this sort of hate speech or aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of shit. I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words at the
Tim
table today,
Walz,
okay?
the governor of Minnesota, holding up a phone in front of a rally saying, we thought we were going to wake up and find out the president had died. Someday it'll happen. Someday it'll happen. I used to say he was the biggest buffoon in American politics, but it's worse now. No political official, no elected official should be walking around saying, I'm hoping we wake up one day and the president of the United States has died. Crazy.
I'm just really glad Charlie Kirk just got himself fucking shot, because he's right. Empathy is dangerous to society. No one should give a fuck that he's dead. He said it. I'm just saying his words. All I'm doing is using his words. You can't be mad at me for using his words. Empathy is a new wave thing and is very problematic. You right. No empathy for you. Zero.
I made some stupid comments about Charlie Kirk on the day that he was shot. I said some things on Blue Sky and on Threads that I'm sorry, not sorry for, but I said them and I deleted them when it was requested that I do so by my employer. And then today, on a weekend, I'm told that I am no longer employed at Microsoft. After 6 years, building the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department from scratch.
Do you know Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, I do.
And what do you think of what happened to him?
Sometimes revenge is a dish best served cold. I hate to celebrate someone's death, but when you talk about guns' rights and you talk about how much the Second Amendment matters to you and it impacts you, like, what do you expect? Sympathies to his family, but this is why we need gun control.
One of my friends said on social media he died in a world that he wanted.
Yeah, he said it himself. There's a whole quote that's been floating around about sacrifices were made for the Second Amendment to still exist, or something along those lines, right? It's an ad-lib, but yeah, this is what happens. You reap what you sow, and it's sad that someone died, but also, hey.
People do have free speech, but when that speech starts to impact their role as educators, which is what the memo mentioned from the Florida Department of Education, then there are measures in place to prevent that. Again, I would defer to them.
Assassination. Do you know that this is our first political assassination in the United States since 1968? Martin Luther King was killed in April of that year, and then Robert F. Kennedy was killed in June of that year. Charlie Kirk was bringing the truth to college campuses, mainly the beauty of God and country. They feared him because he was actually changing the mind of college kids, showing them the insanity of what they are being taught, the indoctrination, and the lie that it's based on. He said, when people quit talking, that's when you get violence. So he invited discussion. He also, though, lived what he preached. He just didn't preach it. He lived. He said, I'm religious, and I want you to find the happiness of God, of living virtuous, not living sin. That's not hate. He was asked if he died what he would want to be remembered for. And he answered, the courage of my faith. That's what I want to be remembered for. As a Protestant, he had a lot of courage. One of the most disappointing things, in addition to the tragedy, was if you saw the video on the House floor in our government yesterday. Someone asked for a moment of silent prayer. And according to the feedback that I'm getting, it was one political party members screaming, no. And they were booing when they were asked to pray. Violence and murder are the tragic consequences, it was said yesterday, when there is a demonizing of those you disagree with.
And Charlie, more than any figure in our country, led the resistance that has restored freedom of speech to this country. And he built this movement, which is going to make sure that never, ever happens again. When my brother David died, I had a conversation with my mother, who had been through more than her share of loss and tragedy. And I asked her, I said, does the hole that they leave in you when they die, does it ever get any smaller? And she said, no, it never gets any smaller. But our job is to build ourselves bigger around the hole. We do that. We do that by taking the best virtues and character traits of the person that we lost and using discipline and restraint and practice, integrating those character traits into our own character. And in doing that, we make ourselves larger and the whole gets proportionally smaller. And we also give that person a kind of immortality, because they are now living on, the best parts of them are now living on in us.
True hero. Got a hero's procession. Kudos to the police officers that joined that. It was very moving watching that, and he deserved every moment of that.
Whether people want to accept it or not, he changed the world. He actually, in some upcoming video we're going to show, there were a number of rallies that were scheduled already in advance across the UK. And those then incorporated Charlie Kirk memorial recognition as well. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. And a lot of people in the UK are viewing his message of free speech being more important than ever. Again, in the UK, where I think in a year they arrested like 12,000 people for their posts on social media or making comments in public, things akin to learn English or speak better English or whatever it is. If you say that on the street casually to someone that's aggravating you, because
while releasing migrant pedophile from jail to make room for these grandmas making these Facebook posts. That's the most crazy part of the whole thing.
Yeah, so the notion that somebody should be able, and the UK doesn't have the same constitution the way we do. The idea in the UK was to be able to speak your mind. And that's why the monarchy, although it still exists, doesn't run the day-to-day of the country. And the figurehead of king is not, you can say things that you feel about the monarchy, you can say things about your elected officials, but more and more it's becoming very difficult to do that because of the very tight laws that everything that you say publicly can be construed as violence. And one of the things you were mentioning earlier about how the left was equating and equates often still things that are non-violence as violence. The one you didn't specifically say is speech. Words are violent or can be violence according to people with that way of thinking. And when I was a kid, we didn't look at it that way. We had a saying as little kids, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You can
I grew up on that mantra too.
Yeah, you can make fun of anybody. That's not violence. It may be inappropriate, may be rude, may be offensive, but it isn't the same thing as outright violence. And that they have equated simple speech, that if you don't agree with it, in the last 4+ years, what was happening? If you spoke and said something that the masses on the left didn't agree with, you were canceled. So they erased your speech. Our current president, at one point, before Elon Musk bought Twitter and called it X, he was deplatformed. And they were deplatforming a lot of people, where they were removing their voice because they said that to speak and to say the things they were saying was violent.
We get these episodes suppressed too by the YouTube algorithm for that exact reason. It's not far from home.
And it's nonsense. Again, no one, if someone's calling to incite violence or what have you, that's different. But that isn't what's happening. And to have a different point of view isn't violence. In fact, that's the whole idea of our country, was that people could openly speak and criticize their government. And that is one of the constitutionally protected things, is to basically point out to your government the things you disagree with. There were a number of things in this last clip that I think should be pointed out. And again, to not turn that into a 2-hour-long compilation, we had a short clip from TMZ, and there was some controversy this week. Harvey Levin, who's the gentleman who jumped out of his chair and was surprised about the news. The thing at TMZ is they run cameras in all the rooms. They're always running cameras there. That's their thing, live streaming everything. News as it happens, and that's why they get a lot of great news feeds and car chases and all this other stuff. But literally at the moment that it was announced that Charlie Kirk had died, you could hear cheering in the background, loud cheering, celebration. Well, it didn't take long for people online to push back at TMZ and say, what is going on over there? What's wrong with you people? So Harvey and one of his pals made a public statement saying, listen, all I can say is the people in the back room, they were watching a car chase, and I know them, and they're all good people, and they would never be celebrating such a thing. All the online sleuths basically hunted down whatever car chase was going on at the time. And there was a very benign, boring, I saw the car chase that was happening, and they even put the exact time, and they put everything matched up. And literally what had happened is while they were watching the car chase, the announcer announcing the car chase on the news station basically stopped and mentioned that Charlie Kirk had died. And they cheered. So, again, there's been a lot of heat to TMZ. I don't think that Harvey is that kind of guy. I don't think a couple of the people within the organization are like that. He tried to protect his people by saying, oh, no, they wouldn't do that. But
Yeah,
my
and you
take,
see when he was jumping up, I was watching and I was trying to see what way he was taking it, and it mostly seemed shock. He didn't seem like he was celebrating. He was jumping
Right.
up in shock. Just shows the level of shock we all experienced when we heard the news.
and it wasn't that video. There's lots of other video because they have so much streaming. So I watched the video. I watched what the other guys were watching, or the people in the back were watching, supposedly. But oddly, there is no video of the people in that other room watching the video, which I think there's a camera in there. But somehow that video disappeared. So bottom line is, I think Harvey tried to fix things, but it shows that there's people at TMZ that work for him that also celebrated this. There was the woman that we had on the video. There's been other posts about her. The gentleman that worked at Microsoft. The sad part is he said, sorry, not sorry. He says, how I feel. He says, what I believe. And again, then you have the Martin County schools talking about here in Florida, how, they're taking action. People need to understand free speech means you can openly speak without criminal retribution. You're not going to be jailed for saying something that's your opinion. But we don't necessarily want doctors, nurses, paramedics that have that sort of view of people that they're happy that anyone dies. Just like in Israel, how many times do Israeli doctors treat people that just tried to kill them a minute earlier, tried to bomb them or what have you? They will take those
They save
patients.
terrorist life after every terror
Right.
attack.
They will give them the best possible care because it's the right thing to do. That's what you do when you work in the healthcare field. Same thing. So if you're in law enforcement, if you're a firefighter, if you're a teacher, you can have whatever private views, but you certainly can't openly speak and tell people that you think it's okay that someone is assassinated in our country. You think that's okay? And the reality
Teachers were a
is,
big problem. There were a lot of teachers in front of their classes basically celebrating this and talking to their students about how good this was. And it just shows the level of education and the indoctrination in the kind of the board of educators. It's just screwed up. It's beyond repair. I think if you're a normal parent, you should put your children in private school or homeschool them. There's a reason why those things are on the up and up, and it's because in most states, the education goes against what the people of the state believe in, against what the people of America agree upon.
we touched upon this on one of our episodes. AI is taking over. Eventually, teaching as we know it will go away. We just hope the AI won't have this incredible bias slant. I think if someone says, look, I didn't agree with someone's point of view, but that has nothing to do with someone being assassinated. Nobody should expect or want that. And it just was mentioned also about Tim Walz, who was a vice presidential candidate and is a governor currently, to even joke about the president of the United States dying. Who does that? The other thing that we hear talked about repeatedly is, oh, we got to tone down the rhetoric. This is all the news pundits. We got to tone down the rhetoric on both sides, on both sides. It's not on both sides. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated by some left-wing person, and people are praying. People are doing prayer circles. People are talking about free speech and carrying on his legacy. It's not like what happened a number of years ago where entire cities were being burnt to the ground and people were being murdered in the streets. Didn't happen. The left does that, not the right. It isn't the same. And what's odd is when you hear this, everyone tries to normalize, oh, it's just on both sides. Oh, yeah, I agree. It's like asking for peace in the Middle East. Okay? Sounds great, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem that you have one group of people in Gaza that, basically believe that they want to exterminate another group of people in Israel. And they openly saying that as a stated, mission. So How can you think that
Watching those protests in the US are exactly like you mentioned with the Antifa protests, where you see cities burning. Every time there's a pro-Palestine protest, flags burning, American flags burning, destruction, you see them just flipping over cars, burning things. Every time, like you mentioned, prayer, every time you see the pro-Israel side protesting, it's circles of prayer, it's dancing, it's singing, it's crying, you know what I mean? And the difference between the two sides is very remarkable.
Yeah, so it isn't this sort of talk, certainly in the media, to try to act. And again, politicians on the left, that's what they say. Oh, we have to definitely make sure that we're going to do two things, that we need to stop having the violent rhetoric on both sides, even though there's really not a whole lot on the right. Not that there's not been any right-wing extremists ever, but it certainly isn't the norm. And then the other thing is that there's this sort of, and how can I put it? It's almost okay. Their favorite topic is let's do gun control. And
the solution for every problem.
Yeah, again, like it's not the answer. If you have a lot of car accidents, getting rid of all the cars is probably not the right answer. The answer would be, let's find out why there's so many car accidents in that city or in that state. Why does that state have more car accidents than other ones? There must be a reason. And again, when we learn that states that have very strict and cities with very strict gun laws have a lot of violent gun crime. And why is that? Because criminals don't follow the law. So there are laws that say don't murder. You don't need another law for that. It's on the books already. So it's not about passing laws. It is about, as you alluded to earlier, enforcing the laws. You discourage further offenses by making sure a person pays a significant price when they break the law. Again, maybe give them a break the first time, but not the 13th time. Okay, maybe not. That's just a little much. And I think that's the issue. Patterns of violence, often, as you said, by the same people over and over again until it hits a boiling point. And then you go, what could have we done? We know what you could have done. And again, if there was some accountability that would be subject to the politicians and the judges that are making these decisions, maybe there would have been a different outcome on some of those cases, because they would feel liable. They would feel responsible for what's done. And
they have to have responsibility for their actions as well.
They should, but nothing ever happens for the most part. So the thought that we're just going to control guns and that's going to fix everything is just misguided. And like we talked about in our last episode, in Australia, in Victoria, the state of Victoria, they now, as of September 1st, they outlawed machetes because people were using machetes. And there was actually in Texas, I think in the Dallas area, there was actually a guy beheaded his boss, beheaded him. What is
for a fight on a washing machine or something?
Yes, yeah, broken washing machine. Ultimately, it's not about the guns.
It was an illegal immigrant, worth noting. That culture of beheading people isn't common in the United States. That's a culture of somebody the Biden administration deliberately imported to this country, because their position was to deliberately import voters, and those voters, illegal, act sometimes that way because they come from cultures where that beheading people is normal. That's not here.
Given what happened with Charlie Kirk, I guess we have some people here who have some problems as well. So I would take a step back and simply say, yes, anybody from anywhere, whether they're multi-generation US citizens, whether they've come from another country, if the ideology is such that it's okay to kill people and it's no big deal, that's a problem. That's not how we view life here. That's not how we view right and wrong here. So that's not the answer, saying we need no guns. Again, if there was a crowd of people that saw someone on the roof and it was something other than a school and they actually were armed, I'm pretty sure there'd be someone that would probably stop that person from even getting away. It's typically, violence is often conducted in places where there'll be minimal retribution or opposition. So if there's somewhere where the other people you're attacking or the victims are not armed, clearly, or they're sitting duck because they're out there speaking, as Charlie Kirk was, that's why they do it. It's not because they're some tough guy or whatever, because this guy ran away. He didn't sit there and said, I did it. No, he ran off.
Yeah.
Hoping
He didn't commit suicide either.
No, hoping to get away.
And his transgender friend boyfriend was supposed to go and get the gun, but never did.
Listen, those are requests, and that's the whole thing. This transitioning boyfriend to girlfriend, which now is apparently cooperating with police. There's some question as to their ideological views, mental stability, and all this other stuff, how much they knew in advance. But yeah, on I think Discord, they were being asked to go and retrieve the weapon which was left behind. And it is in the police report that I did see that now has been made public, which shows that the police interviewed that individual and they showed the messages on their screen and the police obtained those messages. So
a lot of people have been radicalized on Discord recently. A lot of these shooters, unfortunately, recently have been radicalized. These school shooters, something's going on in Discord. I think that's owned by Microsoft. So I really hope that firing this asshole behind the equity, inclusion, whatever department of Microsoft. That was the kicker. He said that he was fired. It was like, okay, maybe you got what you deserved. But the minute he said that he was behind that, it's okay. Microsoft hopefully is going to start cleaning house because this is unacceptable. I think the crime of Charlie Kirk, the crime for which he was murdered, was the fact that he was the most effective person on planet Earth of changing the mind of college kids. And he was going against the indoctrination that was indoctrinating college kids into the mindset that murdering people for what they say is fine. He was at the forefront of this battle, and he succeeded more than anybody else. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he was killed, is because he was there holding up the water on his own, holding the gate, the floodgate. And the person said, empathy is over. We were always expected to be empathetic to anybody with a mental illness, anybody who doesn't feel well, anybody who threatens to commit suicide. It's funny because empathy is the core of what makes us who we are. But it reminds me of that sentence of good times create weak men, bad times create strong men create good times. And it's just the cycle of life, right? So we have been kind, friendly to all of the quote unquote marginalized in society. That tends to be the criminals. Of course, not all marginalized people are criminals. That's not what I'm trying to say. Is that the idea of empathy to those marginalized criminals is behind what has been going on. We let the weak men be in control and cause bad times. And it's time that we stop that. It's time that strong men stand up and create good times again, because only strong men can create good times. That empathy is over. I've got no empathy for the Microsoft employee that was fired. It turns out that Microsoft also runs one of the largest gaming, like Ubisoft, or one of the largest kind of gaming companies in the world. And basically all of the employees there were cheering and celebrating. And basically Microsoft really has to clean house. And I really hope that they do. But one thing that really hit me was the fact that on TV, MSNBC were blaming him for his own death. And this was a recurring motive by a lot of the people who were interviewed is, oh, it's his fault. He was for the Second Amendment. And that means that he said that there could be consequences for that. And that means that it's good that he got murdered. Different kind of, he said that you should be willing to die for free speech. And then he died for free speech. Wow, that's great. That mindset of blaming him for his murder is.
One of the things I want to say, like for the record, we're not taking pleasure out of anyone losing their jobs. All right. This isn't about retribution or whatever. We're disgusted that some people are taking seemingly pleasure out of watching someone be assassinated, that someone's father is gone, husband is gone. Guy was 31 years old, going to be 32 next month. That to me is disgusting. But that doesn't mean that we're out there. And there are people that are actually compiling websites now that are hunting on social media for these posts, putting them on there, trying to find out where they work and contacting their employers, or providing a database for the employers to search them out. At what point we want to, I don't know. I just think these people are sick for thinking that way. But what I get out of this is the following. Yeah, for a guy that's been working for 6 years for a company and founded a whole department and all this, to lose their job, yeah, that's sad. And you're losing your job for what? For your free speech. But you just lost your job, which is horrible. But imagine losing your life for doing the same thing, for speaking what you believe in. That to me is the message. The people that are losing their jobs or getting suspended or whatever, it's not about, oh, look, you're getting suspended. It's not about that. It's about there needs to be consequences. If nothing else, maybe some of these people will stop and think, get counseling, talk to other people, maybe, just maybe start understanding that thinking that way about anybody is wrong. And that some employers and the community at large isn't okay with it. Isn't okay with it. There are people who have odd fetishes, odd this, odd that. We can't control everybody. It's not about that. But don't act like it's normal and be surprised that people push back. And for the last number of years, as I was saying earlier, what was happening? People were being canceled. So in other words, their voices were being extinguished. So they couldn't say what they were saying. Okay. They were being called Nazis, as you were saying. They were being called racist and who knows what else. Everything was thrown at them to silence people's voices. People are fed up with that. In the UK, they're fed up. Australia, they're fed up. The United States, they're fed up. I think a lot of people in Canada are fed up with that. It's gotten so out of hand that people can't point out when there's something that's wrong. And you know what? That's when people are saying they're rising up to tell the truth and say this was wrong. And to glamorize and think it's okay is wrong. And a lot of employers wouldn't feel comfortable keeping people like that employed by them because it's bad for business. And why would you want to work with someone that feels that way about murdering people? It's insane. So yeah, that's what's happening. And again, you lose your job. It's sad. Imagine Charlie Kirk losing his life and Erica losing her husband and the kids losing their dad. I mean, just put it in perspective. Everyone needs to wake up. You have all these people that were woke, but they need to not be woke. They need to actually wake up and understand this is not acceptable. We're tired of it. We're tired of it. Okay.
Yep.
The majority of people are just fed up with it. This has to stop. You can't just go and threaten to hurt someone or whatever because you don't believe in their point of view. And Don Lemon, who was interviewing people on the street and taking some sort of glee out of this, it seemed it's not normal. And the people that he's talking to, not normal that they think that way, that it's like perfectly okay that someone for their own speech and thoughts gets murdered. It's not normal. So anyhow, that's just something I wanted to say. And it's not that I don't take glee at anyone losing their job or whatever. But I think these people, if nothing else, maybe they're putting a mirror onto themselves to shine a light on really what their thought process is. Maybe they have to, for the first time, reflect on what it really means.
I think these people, like you said, have been living in a bubble for so very long. It's really time for them to wake up. And hopefully getting fired from their job will be the wake-up call that they really need to connect to humanity, to Earth, being normal.
Would hope. And a lot of what I've heard out there, as you mentioned earlier too, are people twisting Charlie Kirk's words, taking some statements he made out of context, or the words like one woman that was talking about him saying that empathy is a new world thing and that it really, the context of it was, he was saying people should be sympathetic. People should have, it was a broader conversation. See, they're taking pieces out of what's being said and twisting it and trying to use it against them. But it's not fair to do that because it's not accurate. And anyone that was willing to take the time to actually listen to what was being said, then can judge. There's a woman online, I think the name is Lynn, who does an absolutely amazing job of pushing back on a lot of what was being said about Charlie Kirk and the statements and how they twisted him. And we put a compilation together that actually has her starting off. And she's pretty fierce about what she's saying, but she's right. Let's listen to this. And so again, sit back, listen, watch, and we'll discuss her thoughts. And then the other many things that are included in there, which show just how widespread this has been. It's caused a ripple effect across the the country and the world.
Do you want to actually quote them properly? Or do you want to continue to do what the mainstream media does and twist and mix up words and ignore context, because that will push your narrative a little bit better? This quote that everyone is posting on the internet right now about Charlie Kirk talking about the Second Amendment and shootings, saying that because of what he said he somehow deserved what happened to him, is a complete fabricated lie. If you actually went on to listen to what he said, he was talking about school shootings and children and how they will continue to be inevitable because wicked people will do evil things. You can put as many gun laws as you want on law-abiding citizens and we will follow them. But it does not matter because criminals will do whatever the hell they want to inflict evil on innocent people. And if you actually continued to listen to what he said, he wanted to ask the question, why do we protect our sporting events, our movie stars, the Hollywood elites, and our banks with firearms, but we don't do it to our own children? Robbing a bank used to be a pretty common occurrence back in the day, but you know what we did to stop it from happening? We put armed guards in there to protect our money. So we protect our money, we protect our airports, we protect the Hollywood elites, but we can't protect our children. That's what Charlie Kirk was saying. And for some of you people online to say that Charlie Kirk said that deaths are inevitable so we can have the Second Amendment, so he died by the sword which he lived by. Yeah, I don't think that Charlie Kirk would want his death to push some insane gun laws and restrictions on law-abiding citizens. Because do you know how he died? Because a wicked person did an evil deed and didn't follow the law. But I could tell you if there was a good person there that knew what was going on, a good man with a firearm will stop a bad one with a firearm every day of the week.
Don't care what his political beliefs were. I don't care what he felt. I care about the fact that a man was gunned down in front of two of his children who are 5 years of age or less. That his wife is a widow, that his children are fatherless. Because his ideas and his beliefs differed from somebody else, apparently. And then I'm going online and I'm seeing people celebrating it. Shame. Shame on you. Props to the New York Yankees organization last night for having a moment of silence. If you're a left winger instead of a right winger, you might not have liked that. You're missing the point. This man was shot and killed from 200 yards away in front of his wife and children and thousands of onlookers who had come to see him, Mr. Charlie Kirk, who had been going from campus to campus, simply debating his ideas against those who might differ from him. That's all. And his life was taken. He's gone at 31 just because he expressed thoughts that differed from somebody else, apparently. And some might blame it because, oh my God, he's friends with the president. And they may not be a Donald Trump supporter. I'm saying bump all that. He's a human being living in the United States of America. This is America. We're not supposed to condone stuff like this. We're not supposed to say it's okay. I don't give a damn who you are, black, white, or anything in between. You're a human being. That's your fellow man and fellow woman out there. That's your fellow brother and fellow sister out there. You got no business thinking like that.
What I want to say about Charlie is that he and I had numerous disagreements. I'm a woman who's married to a woman. And despite that, he invited me on his podcast. He had me speak at his Turning Point event. He platformed me. He retweeted me. This is a guy that was willing to engage in debate to resolve disagreements. And the fact that I am seeing celebration, and I'm not going to point fingers, I'm not going to make this about any red, blue, I don't want to be divisive here, but this is disgusting. I got a tweet from my daughter today. I'm sorry, I'm not thinking clearly. I got a text from my daughter today telling me that kids at her school were celebrating. Okay, at my daughter's high school, something. is wrong in this country. The divisiveness, the rhetoric, the othering has got to stop.
Like, I'm unfollowing you, Liv. I'm taking my business elsewhere. Listen, please do. I am making this video to double down on it. I will gladly hold the door open. I will put a turbo engine on the ass of anybody that is celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Get out of my life. Are you crazy? If you subscribe to the ideology that you have the right to kill another human because they disagree with your religious or political views, you are sick. You are sick. England, the United States, it is a Christian country. If he has been killed for his beliefs, his faith, loving his country, and you're celebrating that, I worry for the future of the world. I worry for the future of these two countries. This is the time we need to unite. And honestly, hand on heart, I always have, I always will stand for what I believe, like I've got nothing to lose. Because you can take all the material, it doesn't matter. What matters is our morals, our character, our country, our family.
But our friend Charlie Kirk was just murdered. And I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but what happened in Butler a year or so ago, that was a game of inches, maybe an inch.
Yeah.
And people were just like, wow, the country dodged a bullet.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. But they didn't today.
Yeah.
And whether he was a great man, and a lot of people who disagreed with him will keep their counsel. But one thing's for sure, he loved this foundation. And he was my friend. And I'll miss him.
Charlie Kirk was just shot and is now passed away while he was debating at the Utah Valley College. And this happened while we've been streaming. I've literally been editing a video. I'm about to upload it right now. And I'm literally stunned. What is going on, dude? For speaking the truth, that's what happened? Are you fucking kidding me right now? If you watch me daily, we don't really get political in this room. We're all about positivity, makeup, sarcasm, jokes, trolling, clapping back, being fun. Okay? This is a grown man who fought for the truth, who went all around our country debating people of all walks of life, walks of religion, walks of sexuality. He debated everybody. And if you're in here saying it wasn't the truth, you are a they, them loser, okay? You are one of those people who doesn't want to live in reality. You want to live in your weird little brain up here, okay? You are delusional. You are not right in the head, okay? So any of you weirdos coming in here, Charlie fought for the truth. He debated people all over this country. And he didn't care what you were. He still had a conversation with everybody. Why did I respect him? Because he knows reality.
Is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it? Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
I want to tell you something else that happened that disturbed me, that shocked me yesterday, because this is not just a moment for the US, this is a moment for Britain. We saw the mask come off on TikTok all day long. There were people saying that Nigel Farage should be next. There were people saying to assassinate the man who might be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. If we cannot engage in political discourse in this country, we've lost everything that we've built, that our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers fought and died for in both world wars. If we cannot honour Charlie's legacy by taking back this country in the name of free speech, in the name of the family unit, in the name of God, then we have nothing left. And so I put this to you, that where one man dies, 10,000 rise. For all of you here tonight, I'm going to put down a challenge that Charlie Kirk has left to you. Pick up that microphone. Where he let it fall, pick it up. That's what he wants to see from you. No tears. It's already been said, we're at war. There's no time. There's no time left, ladies and gentlemen. You have, in this country here, one election cycle left to decide whether that man over there will continue the legacy of hatred, of self-immolation that the left want to bring on our economy and our children, or whether or not we carry on Charlie's legacy and we do what he wanted to do, which was to unite the West in its fundamental values of Christianity, of love, of hope, of belief, of family, of the right to own property, of anti-Marxist principles, of principles which mean we do not become like the dictatorships around the world. So,
to acknowledge the assassination of Charlie Kirk today. He was a father, a husband, a son, and one of the biggest advocates of free speech. Whether you believe in his Christian and political beliefs or you are against them, he was always happy to have a debate or conversation in a public forum, which is much of what we do here within these chambers. In all of the clips I've seen in his political or ethical debates, his voice never raised to a yell, and he always let the other person speak before he replied. I sit here before you frustrated, a bit worried for the lives of the people around me, and I feel angry for a Christian voice silenced. I just ask that we keep things civil and allow each other to be heard. We sit up here as electeds, and in my case, an appointee, to listen to you collectively and to do what we can to help the city as a whole. We don't interrupt public comments or talk over you. In fact, most of us take notes up here fervently, whether you like us or not, because your needs and wants are important to us. I want to end by saying this. I've largely been quiet in my seat. I can assure you, in the light of what's happened today with the assassination of Charlie Kirk and seeing the fear of that young Ukrainian woman's eyes, savagely murdered in North Carolina, it has awakened something within me. I can assure the citizens of Encinitas, I will no longer be the quiet one. I implore my colleagues and fellow citizens to no longer live in fear or to be silent. Thank you.
Shot down and he was barely 31. Another woke coward took a life with a gun. He left behind a wife and a daughter and a son. All he did was try to speak for all of us. And I'm so tired of the hatred and the narratives. The patriots ain't dangerous, woke people are the terrorists. They shot and killed the father, sent a message to Americans. They ain't gonna stop until they bury us. Dear Charlie, I don't know if you can see us now, but if heaven has a window, I sure hope you're looking down. Cause we ain't going quiet, we gon' scream your name loud. And you're gone, but I swear to God that we gon' make you proud. We ain't backing off or giving up, I'll preach what you taught me. They may have killed a soldier, but that man had an army. This is far more deep than some political parties. And you can't kill freedom, so this one is for Charlie.
This ain't the America that all our parents love, but good men try to keep making it great. Pray that God will take care of us, the system is failing us when good men die for the things that they say. And I can't just be quiet, so I gotta be brave, cause this is America. Lately it's scaring us, but one good man can change it all in a day.
They told me, be a man, boy, toughen up. Then they let women become men, they tricked me. They told me, speak your mind if you're brave enough. And I spoke up and I got canceled quickly. We were always too young and too nice, and now we're too old and too left or too right. Well, we're speaking our minds tonight. Cause you can't cancel all of us, and you're more than welcome to try. But you can't cancel all of us, cause we're standing here side by side. And you can't cancel all of us, we're burning the stars and the stripes. But you can't cancel all of us, cause the internet ain't real life. They told me, be a man.
Can't cancel all of us.
Yeah, so for everyone, that was the wonderful Tom McDonald. We've already mentioned him. He was an independent singer. And yeah, he released that song pretty quickly after, and it's touching, don't you think?
It sure is. And then we obviously had the Can't Cancel All of Us song as well.
Yeah.
Tom, they tried to cancel him. They tried to shut him up. They didn't like that he didn't fit the mold for a guy who does rap. And he was talking about things that you and I feel are important. And there he is, here he is, and he's trying to get the word out. Still, he's the kind of guy people want to shut up as well. They don't want him talking. They don't want to hear what he has to say. But I think that they that don't want to hear him are fewer and fewer day by day. I really believe that.
I agree 100%. I think that Charlie Kirk's shooter, Robinson, whatever his name is, he tried to silence Charlie Kirk. Instead, he created a million more Charlie Kirks.
Yeah,
So-
no, without a doubt. And if you've seen, Charlie's now being used across the globe, Australia, throughout the UK. He is now, again, a symbol of the importance of free speech and how people are rising up and saying, you know what, we're tired of being canceled. Tyler Robinson, just like we talked last episode about the kid who shot up the church, it's mind-boggling. Tyler grew up seemingly a smart kid, got a scholarship. His parents are seemingly conservative, I think, in the history of law enforcement. I think the kid led a pretty good life by all accounts. And then now there's talk that recently he had been making comments about how he disagreed with Charlie Kirk and thought that the things Charlie was saying were wrong. And we know that he's been dating this individual who's transitioning from male to female. And I guess the broader question is, how does someone go from being in a seemingly stable household? I think he has siblings, to someone who thinks it's okay to stage and execute an assassination on somebody just because you disagree with their beliefs. How did this happen? And I think the reason I said that's important is it's like, how did the school shooters become school shooters? How do people, what makes someone, these kids weren't born evil, right? What happened? And I think that's the real question we all have to ask.
They've been radicalized, likely by the education system.
But we need to, I think maybe more than ever before, people are asking and demanding some sort of understanding how that happened. They say he's not cooperating with law enforcement. Of course not. He's going to be arraigned tomorrow, Tuesday. He, of course, I'm sure his legal counsel's telling him to plead not guilty, which is the typical situation, and then the prosecution has to prove their case. That's typically what happens. That's why they say he's not cooperating, because he's being counseled not to cooperate. But the likely outcome is life in prison, or likely at this point a death sentence, which would mean he'd be on death row for 20, 30 years, which again,
Which sucks.
which is
It's
ridiculous.
absurd.
Yeah, that's another ridiculous thing. Bottom line is, what he did has to have the most severe penalty. And the second thing is that really, what does everybody want? We can't bring Charlie back. We want to know why. And how did this happen? How did this kid become who he is now? Because I doubt he was that way 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And the other broader questions are, same thing like with the school shootings. What could have been done to stop him? What signs? What did he say? What was he posting? There's some talk that he didn't have much of a footprint on social media, other than maybe Discord or who knows where, that they couldn't find anything. Maybe that's by design, because that's not normal for someone his age.
Or maybe somebody who consumes a lot of social media doesn't necessarily post a lot on social media. So if you look for anything he posts, maybe he doesn't post anything, but it could be that he consumed a lot of TikTok, or who knows what that radicalized him.
Unknown, but I think that's it. We'd like to know. We'd like to understand. Why do we want to understand? Because we want to fix the next kid that's like him before this happens again. It's not about this. It's like these school shootings where they turn the gun on themselves. Who wins? Yeah. The kid, Nobody. The shooter dies, the kids get injured or killed, or the adults. It's like you lose. Everybody loses. Society loses. The world loses. Nobody benefits from this. This is like the reality of it. And again, it's asinine to think, this guy's going to kill somebody, and it's like even the people celebrating. It's not going to stop the message. In fact, if anything, it did light this flame where people are like, you know what? He's not here. We're going to stand up for him. We're going to all now speak. You heard that council member who was basically saying, he was always the quiet guy, no longer. It's time for people to actually start talking and pushing back when something is wrong. See something, say something. I think that we're all eager to learn more about this. It's life-changing. I think for a lot of people like myself who saw the original videos and you actually see the assassination occur in 4K, and you're watching it and you see it happening. Unless someone was old enough to watch what happened in the 60s, they haven't seen assassination like this. And President Trump, by the grace of God, just turned his head at the last split second and survived. We can't have this keep happening. Okay. We all have disagreements with people. We all have different points of view, but I hope all the energy is put into this and people stop just saying all the fake things about, on both sides, they need to stop the rhetoric. And it's not both sides. It's one-sided in large part. You got to be a moron to not see that. And that at the end of the day, it is unacceptable that anybody say or do something like this. It's got to end. And we said our piece. What more could we do than just share our thoughts? And we had a few days to think about it, and we delayed actually getting this episode out because we needed some time as well. I think it's
internalize it a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that in our country there are people that would stoop this low and be this evil.
And many more people who will celebrate it. I just want to finish off with two notes. First of all, it is worth noting that his father is the one who turned him in. I think he admitted or symboled something to his family that he had some part in it, and then his father turned him in. So kudos to the father for being brave.
I believe the father recognized him in the videos, in the photographs that were put out there.
And then I just want to remind our viewers that probably 5 or 10 episodes ago, we actually aired a video of Charlie Kirk where he discusses the division between a father and son, where the father who looks conservative is pretty radical woke, and the son who looks radical woke is actually very conservative. And there's a divide in the family that's tearing the family apart. And Charlie just does this phenomenal job of mending both sides together and explaining to them how they can rebuild their connection and get along, even if they do disagree politically, even if the solution is speech, more speech, not less speech, and not shutting each other up. But yeah, definitely worth going back and watching that part. It was a phenomenal interview or discussion of Charlie Kirk that he had in exactly one of these rallies, just like where he was killed. And I just want to say, on the tent where he was sitting down before he was shot, it said, "Prove me wrong." And I have yet to see a single person prove Charlie wrong. And that's really important. The last thing I want to touch on really quickly is Charlie was a staunch supporter of Israel. He went to Israel. He saw things for himself with his own eyes. He stood for the truth, for what's right. He wasn't blinded by political biasness and stuff like that. He was very realistic. There are some radical anti-Semites trying to claim that, who were trying to claim that Jews or Israel is behind the assassination, which is utterly ludicrous, especially since he was one of Israel's staunchest supporters in the world. Their theory is because on a Megyn Kelly discussion, they came against some people who were coming against them for not supporting Israel enough or something stupid like that. It was just ludicrous. Anybody who thinks that there's any reality behind that conspiracy theory is just utterly stupid. Everybody from the Prime Minister of Israel and basically every prominent Israel supporter has been thankful to Charlie and saddened by his passing, because he really was a hero to all people around the world and not just in the United States.
No, absolutely. And I think that's maybe to underscore that there's a lot of misinformation out there. There are people intentionally putting out information that's inaccurate, photoshopping other shirts on the alleged assassin. Ultimately, you got to take a step back. Bottom line is, we have questions we'd love to have answered. This should have never happened. It did, and I think it affected all of us in some way. And again, if the way that you're being affected is that you're excited and happy and they're joyful about it, it's time to go on a meditation retreat or something.
Yeah.
I think, listen, as we wind down the episode, I think we really didn't cover the wider array of topics we typically cover, but because this one was just so profound, and I just think it would be a disservice to it. But I think the one thing we do want to include, because I think we need it more than ever, is we typically end off each episode with some humorous things. And we have a few here to maybe remind us that there are still good people out there doing good things, even if they don't always see eye to eye. And I'd like us to spend a little bit of time with that, because like we say, laughter is the best medicine. And I think we need a good dose right now. Let's take a look at a few of these. If you're a racing fan, things happen sometimes, and remember, you're racing against other teams, and the other teams are your quote-unquote enemies on the track. But sometimes your opposition or competition may do the right thing. Let's take a look.
30 years old. I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me, so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me, some are still out seeking glory, and some I had to leave behind. My brother, I'm still sappy. Soon I'll be 60 years old. My daddy got 61. Remember life, and then your life becomes a better one. I made a man so happy when I wrote a letter once. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold, or will I have a lot of children who can bore me? Soon I'll be 60 years old.
So that was the Lido's number 23 car. Been in their pit stop. They changed the tires out. Clearly they didn't tighten one on the left rear wheel, if that's the one that came off. And the car takes off and the wheel just spins off the car. They pull over at the nearest pit stop, which is the competitor, the 19 cars.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was a competitor. That's amazing.
They pull over. Yeah, so the Lido's 23 car pulls over, I guess, the closest place it can, but then it's driving on three wheels now. Pulls over on the 19 spot, which is the Bass Pro Shops car. And the pit crew doesn't miss a beat. They come out, they grab the tire, and they put it on, get them back on the way. And that's symbolic of how that's sportsmanship. That's number one. You can disagree. You can not necessarily be always on the same page. You might have some words, as they say, in the heat of sport, but they're not violent words, and there is no such a thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And then listen, when we think about things like that, we know this week there were some pretty crazy things that we saw. There was a certain sporting event where a autographed cap was being handed to a kid, and a prominent tourist CEO grabbed the hat out of the kid's hand. He was shamed online for doing that. Initially, he had said, and I don't want to get too into it, but initially he was saying, like, the kid got a lesson on life. I think his wife said that things happen like that. But the crowd and most of the people watching professional league tennis didn't think that was appropriate. And then we see things like this next clip, where, again, a large part of why we involve our kids in sports is to learn sportsmanship, is to learn how to interact with other people, even if you're competing with them. Maybe our politicians need to understand that. Some of them do play sports, but unfortunately, perhaps the message is often lost on them. Let's take a look.
Let's check out the T-Mobile coverage cam. So this is why baseball is the greatest sport in the game. Melendez throws it to this fan, so pumped, but he's, you know what, no, I got to give the baseball to a kid. But then later in the game, Gooby, when Walsh hits the home run, the kid's dad's going to come up with the baseball. He's, here you go, now you got your ball back. You got two. He's, you know what, no.
This is incredible.
Gives it back.
That is so amazing. Look at that.
He's knowing. She's, that's so cute.
That is amazing. Look at that smile. Both of them. Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
Pure awesomeness.
That's what it's like to be an American. That's the whole point. All right. You're out to empower and help your fellow man and woman, not to make it harder. And you should celebrate people's victories and their happiness, even if you're not having one. You're the greatest day yourself. You want to celebrate what other people can celebrate. I think that's an important message. And here's another great reminder of that. This is from quite a few years ago. And I just thought it was a timely reminder of how it is important to celebrate. Give everyone a chance. Celebrate the good moments with them.
Jason McElwain was at practice today doing what he does every day. As a student assistant, he helps out the team. But all that changed on Wednesday night. That's when Coach Jim Johnson decided to give Jason his shot to suit up and play.
He said, this is your senior present. This is your last chance to ever get out on the floor as a actual basketball player for that night.
Jason, or J-Mac as he is known, is medically diagnosed as highly functioning autistic. He's also loved by his teammates and fellow students. That's why they came to the game with his face on signs. And when he entered the game, they went crazy.
My emotions started running wild. I actually sat down and I started to tear up. I was like, oh my God, this is happening.
Jason got in the game, took a pass, and took a shot. He missed badly.
First possession, he gets the ball. He shoots an air ball. He misses like by 6 feet. And I put my hands in my head. I'm like, please, Lord, just get him a basket.
1 minute later, he got his hoop. A three-pointer that set the gym on fire.
I was very excited. The team was excited. Everybody else was excited.
But J-Mac wasn't done. He kept shooting and kept hitting. Another three and another three.
I was on fire. It was hotter than a pistol.
When he was done, he had hit a team record tying 6 3-pointers. The crowd stormed the court and put Jason on their shoulders.
It was one of those special moments that, as an athletic director, if I retired today, this would be the one thing that I talked about forever.
Jason's playing career is done, but his celebrity continues at school.
Everybody, I was late to every single class. Everybody was saying congratulations.
So you got a superstar on your team now.
Yeah, he's like a celebrity in school. He's loving every bit of it, too. You see him smiling all the time.
In Rochester, New York, this is Mike Catalano reporting.
Sometimes it's worth giving the rookie a chance, huh?
He was just like the assistant. It was his one chance to actually give it a try. They were just hoping he'd even make one basket. And he set a record. This was over a decade ago. He's a grown man now. He's an adult, and it'll never be forgotten, all because they gave him a chance. And we need to go back to being like that. Like, what? Something has changed, and people just need to take a breath. We should be empowering each other.
Not demonizing each other, calling them everybody Nazis and Hitler. It's disrespectful to Holocaust survivors too.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. That's just insane. And listen, with all the craziness we've seen over the last year or so, and all the protests and everything else, I did stumble upon a protest that was worthy of being put on here. A protest that perhaps, had I known that this was going to happen, I might have actually joined in and supported. Now, this is out of Tampa, Florida, so it would be a bit of a drive or a flight from here, but it's not far away, really, not that far. Maybe worth it if the organizers had let me know about it. But you can watch and let me know if you would have joined in this protest as well. I think some things in life are actually important, like the weather. You got to know if it's going to rain or not. Don't you hate when the weather forecast is totally wrong? You change your whole day, and
let's take a look.
Something needs to be done about it. This group finally did.
Said it was gonna rain. Look at me. I look like a fool now. All right, everybody start loading on. What do we want? Accurate weather. When do we want it? Now. Ball must fall. Ball must fall. Ball must fall. What do we want? Accurate weather. When do we want it? Now. Ball's a weather boy, not a weatherman. Ball's a weather boy, not a weatherman. Who are you sick of? The weatherman. Ball's a clown. Ball's a clown. Ball's a clown. You said it was gonna rain. Look at me. I look like a fool now. Whether or not, here we come. Stop all the lies. I'm cooking like a fry. The humidity is much higher than expected, Paul. Rain, sleet, or snow. They'll not have go. We will be back, and they will hear us.
Yeah, as if the weathermen are sorcerers. They just read off the notes that Noah provides them. Noah's the North.
No, I mean, I actually knew a meteorologist that when I was doing guest appearances on an NBC affiliate in Texas, and the meteorologist was very fascinating to speak with, and it was very, there's a lot of work goes into it, but it is something that has a lot of variables, and you might give the wrong forecast more often than not. I used to always joke there's two jobs you can have, right? That you could be wrong most of the time, and no one's going to basically penalize you for it. One is being the weather person, and then the other one is picking stocks and being a stock analyst. So it is what it is.
Here you can actually be rewarded for being wrong, which is a whole other ball game.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, I think this protest was no less valid than some of the other weird protests that have come out in recent past. But at least I think if you were there at the weather station, you saw this outside, there I'd come out. I would have had to hug everybody in the crowd. I mean, it was funny. I'm sorry. That was really funny.
Yeah.
And good humored. Listen.
Yeah, it didn't hurt anybody or bother anybody. It was a good joke.
And listen, along the same lines of trying to inject some humor into the day, we've talked a lot of times about, how I certainly think that the Just for Laughs group up in Canada, in Quebec, especially Just for Laughs, the gags, pranks that are pulled all over the city for numerous years, those will go down in history, some of the funniest things. And I think that we need humor more than ever. Imagine being at the shopping mall, coming up the escalator, and having this happen to you. How would you react? kudos.
That was really awesome.
I actually got really into it.
Yeah, embrace it, right?
And they pull these pranks they were doing this for years all over the city.
It's smarter it was an escalator, because if it was stairs, people would turn around and run back down. But you can't really do that on an escalator.
Yeah, and that's true. It's also to be harder. And I guess like in life, the thing is when you find yourself in a situation, it's how you handle it. That's the most important.
Yeah, everything in life throws you lemons, turn it into lemonade. What other choice do you have?
And I guess that's true. What else? What other choice do you have? Sometimes you do have choices. You could say yes or no, and you look at an opportunity and judge it, but it may not be what it appears at first, right? So when people provide an offer to you, you may or may not understand the scope of the offer. Here's a prime example.
Hi, my friends and I are raising money for a charity. Can you do it?
Okay.
Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, let's get washing.
The sign did say topless car wash, and that the old guys with the man boobs definitely were topless.
Yeah, they definitely were.
But listen, marketing is super important. We've talked about that in some of our other episodes, really, how marketing changes really perception, right? People will make a buying decision or what have you on how something is presented.
Mhm.
I think I found an extreme example. There's this company out of Korea, I think they're called Uzon, that found their sales dramatically increase because they decided to improve their packaging. And it is true, it's been said. I've looked at stuff and said, wow, that packaging is like very expensive packaging. And let's take a look at their success. This is a body wash. And by simply changing the packaging, it seems that their sales went through the roof. Tell me what you think.
Natural fresh lemon gel, 97% bamboo soothing gel, natural fresh carrot gel, and natural fresh cucumber gel. And for listeners, those are basically resembling the shapes of the products. So a little bit like a very stretched lemon, like a bamboo stick, like a large carrot, and like a cucumber gel. But they also all very much look like dildos. So useful for the female audience, that's for sure.
So the packaging may have some other purpose as
Dual
well.
use, yeah.
And actually, these say hand cream on them. Actually, I don't even think these are body gels. It says soothing gel. I think the middle one was. The other ones say hand cream on them. Yeah, so packaging is important. Marketing is, I guess, an important thing. But I don't know how that would be taken here in the United States. But the Koreans may, I think, have a different level of tolerance for humor and so forth. But so do other countries. Again, there are a lot of funny ads out there that I think would never be allowed here.
Which is
But
stupid in its own right.
yeah, but if you watch them, you just can't believe it. These are actual real ads. Here's another one. And you got to wait to the end to see what the ad's actually for.
Maman m'a dit que je peux.
Mom said I could.
Eh ben maman m'a dit que je peux.
My mom said I could. Saying in French.
Eh ben maman m'a dit que je peux. Maman dit que je peux. Maman dit que je peux. Maman, je peux mettre le chat dans la machine à laver? Oui. 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 Oui.
So for those who aren't reading the captions or don't understand French, the kid was going around doing all these different things, taking a chainsaw and cutting his chair in half in school and driving a car, getting into an airplane. And every time he was caught, he was like, my mom said I could. My mom said I could. And ultimately, you see him at the very end going to the bedroom with the door closed, asking his mom some question. Now you hear the mom going, yes. And then the ad shows up for the condoms and it says pure pleasure. Again, crazy like level of like hilariousness against a French ad. I don't think that would fly over here.
Yeah.
But one country's television ad is our happy ending funny video today.
Yeah, that was great. Funny ad. Well done.
And words do matter. They do, and sometimes they can get you into trouble. Even when you get someone on your newscast that supposedly can foretell the future and know what the future holds for you. Here's a prime example.
We're joined now by the Oracle on everything, Kitty Flanagan. Now, Kitty, should I be worried about my job?
If you keep calling me Clitty, you should, yeah.
So I don't know if it's special powers that you could foretell the future, but yeah, if he doesn't watch what he says on live television, he could get himself in trouble with regards to his job. It's unknown. And you got to be careful what you wish for. That is true. In life, sometimes you're not really sure what direction to go, and you try to compromise. Compromise can potentially be a problem. Sometimes that's not the best choice. You should pick A or B, not A and B. But here's another example of that. Ever thought of getting another dog?
Always.
It's hard to choose which one, though, right? What kind?
The hardest choice.
I think I like this little guy.
I love this one.
You could always compromise and breed them together. Dobro Wawa. Know what I mean?
I've never seen a breed like this, nor have I. I don't know what to make of it, frankly. It's unsettling. It's disturbing to look at it directly. How did this dog get past regions? That's what I want to know.
I'm Sarah McLaughlin. Will you help these misunderstood animals?
I don't like the fact that it's looking this way. All right, that's it.
Save yourselves!
No Dobro Wawas for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the yappiness of a Chihuahua and the aggressiveness of a Chihuahua, which is usually harmless, with the large face of a Doberman is a little timid.
Yeah, that could be a problem. Again, picking A or B is sometimes better than, and I guess that is a message. Listen, you don't always have to agree with everything, but pick one and stick to it rather than trying to blur the lines and make some kind of watered down answer. And again, communication, as we've said, was a theme of the episode in large part, is important. And as we wrap up, sometimes it's hard when you're communicating with people that speak different languages. I grew up in Montreal, and the province Quebec is mostly French, and there are a lot of people who just speak French. So when you're traveling to Montreal or anywhere in Quebec, in fact, many parts in Canada, you might come across individuals that will communicate with you in what they believe is English. But it may be hard to understand sometimes. So this is just a public service announcement to don't jump to conclusions if you think you're hearing something that you're not, because maybe you're not really understanding what the message is supposed to be. Just saying. Here's a prime example.
Vous conduisez trop vite.
Do neither of you speak English?
I do. Your papers. We would like to eat your papers. Can you show me your party papers?
You want to see our party papers?
Party
Oui. We are
Obviously,
No, I must apologize for me and my partner. We should not fight. To argue is nowhere to go through the life. Do you know the key to life?
What's that?
The key to life is a penis in your asshole.
I beg your pardon, sir. I think you must be saying that wrong.
No. The key to life is a penis in your asshole.
I don't think you're saying what you mean to say.
Oh, oui, a penis to smile, to be happy.
Oh, happiness. Honey, it's okay.
In your asshole. That's... No, not your asshole. Where you live. Your appartement, your domicile. Your house.
Household.
Ah!
The key to life is happiness in your household.
Oui. The key to life is a penis in your asshole.
I'm trying to tell her that.
What do you think I said?
Oh, I don't even want to tell you.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a kick out of it. Okay, well, we thought that you said that the key to life is a penis in your asshole.
Sacre bleu, no! You Americans think everyone wants to fuck you? No one wants to fuck you! Merde! Here is your party papers.
But Canadians are nice.
Still mounted police for you.
So, in an attempt to at least inject some amount of humor into this otherwise completely non-humorous episode. The reason that's included, and hopefully there won't be any issues with us putting that in there, I think it's from Super Troopers 2 or something. That has a message. And the message is, you see how misunderstanding somebody's message could totally change what you believe they're saying. Okay.
And you can be certain you understood them correctly. Certain.
A lot of people have said that Charlie Kirk said certain things in ways he didn't say and completely out of context. And much as in that humorous clip, the meaning is completely misconstrued. I think some very positive, very otherwise neutral things that Charlie Kirk was trying to espouse and share and debate have been twisted, no different than like that language issue between French and English, to completely twist what his intent was and to say that he was saying something completely different. And again, we've said this now, I think, a few times during this episode, that for anyone to pass judgment, they should go and listen to what he actually said. To listen to the plethora, the endless amount of videos out there. And it doesn't mean you will agree with all of his opinions, but it certainly hopefully will dispel the wrong, vile twists that have been used with his words to make him into something completely different than who he was and who's going to be remembered as, and maybe to understand why there's so many people, I would say at least millions throughout the world now, that will forever remember Charlie Kirk as a beacon of hope for free speech and as someone to embody in the plight of the open debate and discussion that all of us should have in every country, because it's becoming rarer and rarer. What's your thought?
Rest in peace, Iryna, and rest in peace, Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think hopefully there was some value to our audience with this episode. I don't know that we brought anything to light that isn't out there. There's so much content, but the reminders that there's a lot of misinformation, and to pass your own judgments based on actual firsthand information, and to consider the value of free speech and open debate and discussion and why that's woven right into the fabric of our country.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think it's a wrap.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we really appreciate your comments. See you down below. Please let us know your thoughts, your feelings, your prayers. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joe.
God bless Charlie Kirk's family and everyone else and everyone watching. And God bless America. And ultimately, if anyone has any issues or problems, seek someone that you can speak with. Violence is never the answer.
Never.
Bye, everyone.